We are finishing our NFL season prediction series this week, or I guess we'll have one more. We'll have playoff predictions next week.
We'll have
But
all
we're
the
finishing our.
divisions done. We'll have all of like
We'll
the
have all the divisions done.
yeah. It's the you could argue the playoffs is like a spiritual second part to this series in
Yeah.
a weird way. That is the finale of finales. This is it's the final division, right? So it's still
Yeah.
it's still a big thing.
No, we're bookending it. We did the AFC North to start, and we said we'll save the NFC North for the end because that's also very interesting. So we're doing that today. As of recording, the season starts tomorrow.
Right.
But when this comes out, it'll probably be it'll only have been one game, but
Yeah.
so there's still lots to go. There's still our predictions could have gone wildly off track or still be relatively okay. But this division won't be affected. This will be the same no matter what happens on Thursday. So
What
we'll
is
jump
the
right into it.
shows how much I follow? What is the Thursday night game again?
Chiefs, Ravens.
Ooh, that's a really good Thursday night game.
Yep.
Okay.
They kind of front loaded that one a bit,
Yeah, a
in
little
my
bit.
opinion.
Yeah,
But-
just a wee bit, but I ain't complaining. I'm definitely watching that.
No. Either way, though, the division we're going to predict will not be the same. We'll stay true to our predictions no matter what happens on Thursday. So, Simon, who do you have in last place in the NFC North,
Well,
if it's not obvious?
yeah, no, I was about to say, I think it should be. I think the real conversation point is how bad you think they're going to be, not what team it should
Yeah.
be. Because it's going to be the Minnesota Vikings. And it is unfortunate. Because they have a lot of players on their team. They have a lot, especially on the offensive side. I'd say a lot of their skilled position players are really interesting. Like Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison is still a really good wide receiver room. Having Aaron Jones as a running back, that's a huge addition. They have a fairly good offensive line. They still have a lot of like pieces that was made them good when they had Kirk Cousins, but they don't have Kirk Cousins. And that is a massive stab. And J.J. McCarthy obviously went down. I believe he's out for the season, right? Like, which means they're relying on I think the starter as of right now is Sam Darnold, but it will assumingly be a tandem of Sam Darnold and Nick Mullins. Which
No, Sam Darnold will start the whole way.
you
but-
think so? You think so?
Yeah, no, there's no chance.
You
Unless Sam Darnold gets hurt.
Oh, okay. So you're actively there's you don't think there's a chance that Sam Darnold is just that bad that he loses the
No,
spot
I
to
don't
Nick
think
Mullins?
so.
Okay.
I
Well,
don't
fair
think
enough.
so. They're still not going to be a good team, but I don't think it'll be that bad.
Okay. Well, no, fair enough. I think a lot of how well you think this team is going to do completely stems around how good you think Sam Darnold truly is. Because I have a funny feeling there are probably people out here going like, you know what? Sam Darnold, J.J. McCarthy, what's the difference? 8 and 9. I am not one of those people. I have them doing fairly bad. Before I give my pick or my record, I'll toss it over to you to give your analysis of this team, and we can both throw our records out at the end just to kind of get a decent comparison.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I will immediately throw our credibility under the bus for both of us and say these were picks before J.J. McCarthy got hurt. But I think
Fair.
I think judging with the slant you were going with and knowing what my own predictions are, I think the predictions honestly fit even better now that J.J. McCarthy is in the mix.
No,
Before, I
right,
probably would have been like,
absolutely.
oh, this is maybe a little bit harsh. Because obviously, I don't know if I introed it very well if you haven't seen any episodes of the series before, but we've individually picked every single game. So there's some teams where we look back at the records and think, oh, maybe this was too harsh, maybe this was like too nice or whatever. And this probably would have been one of those teams until J.J. McCarthy went down, and now I'm like, this feels pretty accurate to my feelings. To kind of dig that nail in a bit deeper, yes, you talk about all of the talent they have, but a lot of that talent, like, we don't know if they're going to be able to see the field. I look at a guy like Jordan Addison, currently listed as questionable. I believe he also had a DUI
Right.
over the summer.
Yes.
So, like, this is said he's expected to play, but we don't know what capacity that's going to be at coming off of that injury. We don't know if there's going to be any legal troubles there. So he's more likely to pay the bets, but that's a bit more of a question mark. The bigger one to me is TJ Hawkinson is going to be out for I think a considerable amount of time. Yeah, he's on the PUP list, so I think that's at least the first 4 games of the season.
Oh.
So that's a pretty considerable injury. We don't know how long he'll be out. So that even just those 2 players, like you have Justin Jefferson, your offense is never going to be terrible, but it makes you pretty one-dimensional depending on how high you are in Aaron Jones.
Yes. No, that's true. And I also think TJ Hawkinson going down is massive just because of just think of the type of offense the Vikings are going to be wanting to run with Sam Darnold as their quarterback in the pass game. They're not thinking of beating whatever team 50 yards down the field every time. Sam Darnold might have to be a bit of a check down merchant at times, and not having your Pro Bowl tight end is pretty rough. That's a pretty rough go of it. I was also just going to point out that Stephon Gilmore, Harrison Smith, Shaq Griffin is like the most 29. It would be an absolutely insane secondary in like 2019. I was thinking about that while you were talking there. I wanted to throw that out there. Do you want to throw out our picks for both of these teams?
Yeah, we can. I mean, like to just kind of wrap the bow up on that defense, I do very much agree with the fact that a lot of these guys are very much past their prime, and then there's some other pieces on there that are like I can see it. Like Jonathan Grenard had a good season last year. Ivan Pace Jr. as an undrafted rookie really outperformed his draft status. Andrew Van Ginkel has been good with the Dolphins. You hope Dallas Turner can have a good rookie year, but past that, it's a lot of like guesses and bets as to how good they're going to be. So yeah, I don't think this defense is anything special. Like I said, I think this offense is missing a lot of the pieces that it needs to run. So I have them doing quite badly. I have them going 4-13 as the second worst team in the NFC. The only team worse is Carolina.
I am very thankful because I felt like my pick was bad. I'm 5-12 is where I have them.
Okay.
And
I don't think it's that harsh.
I don't think it is. No, I don't disagree with you.
They play in an absolute shredder of a division.
Yeah, and I will say,
put them in the NFC South, they got a couple more wins, if not like 2 or 3.
Did you say you have them being second worst?
In the NFC.
Yes. Or yeah, no, that's what I meant. Second worst in the NFC. I do too. The Saints are the worst for me. They share the same record, but I guess there's some sort of tiebreaker there. One must beat the other, I guess. Anyway, we can move on. I will say, the beginning of this division, or the very bottom, is by far the most, or the least interesting. I think now we're starting to get into the top 3 here, who, depending on how high you are on who I think is going to be the consensus number 3, there could be 3 fairly good teams in this NFC North division this season.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll let you let me go first at the beginning. I'll let you go first here. Who do you have in third?
Well, I think we're probably on the same page based on how you set this up. Because I think that the Chicago Bears are going to be in third place. I think they're very much improved from where they were last year, obviously. Obviously, a lot of hype surrounding them, mostly because of the 2 picks at the top of their draft. You can pick those 2 guys and then not pick at all the rest of the draft, which, I mean, they only had 5 picks. They basically didn't. But it doesn't matter because those 2 guys alone can instantly change your franchise if they live up to even most of what their draft billing is. And they didn't exactly skimp out in terms of adding talent around them either. Like bringing in a guy like Keenan Allen is a good get in terms of getting a veteran in that room. DeAndre Swift, while you may argue against kind of the logic of paying him that money, it is still a good piece to complement that running game.
It's a pretty nuts running back room, too, having that 1-2 combo of Herbert and Swift. Like, that's going to be pretty dangerous.
No, and you look at that defense, too, and that defense was already playing so well at the end of last year with how much of a heater they got on at the end of last year and just adding that much talent on the offense. You obviously think, okay, this is a team that looks like it could be challenging for the playoffs. And in my end bracket. They didn't end up making it,
Yes.
partially because of just how tough this division is and how tough it's going to be to get wins against the other top two teams in the division. Obviously, the Lions and the Packers. In what order we have them, you don't know. But yeah, I have the Bears going 1-3 against the Lions and the Packers, and I mean, put them in any other division, and that's going to be a lot easier. But I think, yeah, it poses a pretty big challenge there, and I think that is probably going to be what eventually knocks them out of playoff contention for me. I have them as the 9 seed, which is just a little bit short of the playoffs. I have them at 9-8. So still having the winning record, still a very successful season, but they missed the playoffs. And it's kind of like a season where like I could very much envision it being like you watch them and you say, okay, I see the potential. Maybe it didn't all click. It's almost like how we kind of saw the Lions a few years ago, where it's like things haven't quite clicked, but this is very much a team to watch. Like when they took out the Packers at the end of a couple of years ago, where you're like, okay, we can very much see that they're up next, that they're going to be something special next year. Obviously not the exact same situation, but I feel like the vibe is going to be very similar after this year.
Yep. No, I don't disagree with a lot you said there, and I think we're going to end up having a very similar sentiment based on where you ended up having your record. The funny thing is, this is actually my division with 3 playoff teams. So,
wow.
Obviously, with the Vikings sitting at the very bottom, you can kind of piece together the fact that I do, in fact, have the Chicago Bears making the playoffs. But, wait.
Do you?
Wait. Oh, shit. There's something. Oh, no, I missed a game. It just hit me. I totally missed a game. Oh, shit. Oh, crap. It's all ruined. It's all up in flames now. I totally missed a game.
Do the Bears have like an 8-8 record or something? Or a 9-7?
They have an 8-8 record. Shit.
We're going back in time. There's still 16 games in the schedule. It's funny because I think at some point earlier in the series, you said a team had a 10-6 record, and I didn't like question it too much.
Wait, really?
But you just kept saying, oh yeah, this team went 10-6 or something.
Oh.
I don't know if it was exactly 10-6, but you kept saying a 16-game record, and I was like, you know what? That's probably nothing. But
I totally. Well, you know what? We can if we can figure out what team that was, then we can figure out. we can figure out which team. Shit. Where
Simon scours the record books.
I am. Well, just for context for everybody watching this, Caleb still has access to the website, which is why he's able to go back and go, oh yes, they beat this team that many times. I've been going off of JPEG because I don't have access to it anymore. So
this website we've been doing it off of is kind of unreliable at times. I think I had the same issue last year where it just wipes your progress. Wait. But it's been good to me this year. So.
Oh, I found it. I think I found it. Yeah. Panthers 7-9. Does that sound right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, funny thing.
Who's winning?
I think that the Bears beat the Panthers. I don't know when they play. I don't know when that game happens in the season, but there you go.
Week 5.
So I also have the Bears going 9-8. So there you go, making the playoffs.
We go.
They'd still make the playoffs based on this, obviously. So there you go.
Yeah.
They would be the 7th seed, according to whatever bullshit this is.
Yeah. Okay.
So now we have the top 2. 2 very good teams. 2 teams that both went fairly far in the playoffs, I believe, right? Didn't the Packers make a decent run? Yeah.
Yep.
So, and both teams who I think it's safe to say will both have high records this year. And depending on who you ask, it's going to be a very competitive division for who ends up on top. Caleb, I'll let you. I'll let you go first on who you have.
I think it's just a crime that they didn't make that the schedule makers didn't think to put Packers-Lions as the Week 18 game.
Yeah.
Because, Week 18 games, all divisional games, and it's always like, oh, what's going to be Sunday Night Football? if you did Packers Lions, you could pencil it in as like, well, this is the winner take all kind of division matchup here, because I think it's going to be that close. In my personal opinion, this is the single-handedly the most interesting division race in any division.
Yeah.
I have other ones that are close. I have the Texans and Colts within a win of each other. I have the Dolphins and Jets within a win of each other. I have the Falcons and Bucks within a win of each other. But that doesn't match what has happening in the NFC North, in my opinion. I, in second, have the Green Bay Packers, but it is not for lack of a good season. Even despite being second in their division, I have the Green Bay Packers with a record of 13-4.
Wow. Okay, a second place team going 13-4. That's interesting.
A second place team going 13-4, okay. And this would, if this did play out in real life, it would very much kind of like, there'd be a conversation about how stupid the playoff system is, because they would have a better record than teams 2, 3, and 4. But in this scenario, they are still team number 5 because they lose the season series to Detroit. I have Detroit winning both games.
Wow.
So they lose the head-to-head.
Yeah.
So that's how, if you can probably, like, I'll have the Lions have the same record for me, not to jump too far ahead. But I think the Packers can have this kind of special season. You look at how they turned it on at the end of last season. And the NFL is a what have you done for me lately league. We talked about the Eagles and why I'm pretty down on the Eagles after what they did to end the year last year. It's pretty much the opposite with the Packers, where you saw Jordan Love come into form, where the development that he's been doing for the last 2-3 years, however long he sat on the bench, finally came to fruition, and he looked like a top 5 quarterback in those last few games. They almost beat the Niners to go to the NFC Championship, and I thought they had that game in hand, if not for a couple plays at the end of the game there. Like, that was close. They blew out the Cowboys, who had played so well all year. This is a team that was just really catching fire at the right time, and I see them bringing that into next year, especially with the fact that they have done nothing but improve the roster around Jordan Love and around this whole team, particularly on defense. I love the addition of Xavier McKinney. That is a fantastic add at the safety position. I also really like the add of Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs kind of plays on he'll have a shit season, then he'll have a great season. He had kind of a shit season last year, so that looks good for Green Bay. Other than that, there's not a lot that changed for this team. The core pieces are still there. Your receiving group is still that kind of like, not one person stands out, but everyone is a great role player. Watson, Dobbs, Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Bo Melton. Like, not one of those guys stands out, but they all play really well together. And that defense still has a lot of the players that are going to make that defense special. So it's a team that I'm really optimistic on. It's a team I'm really high on. That all starts with Jordan Love. I see him continuing to push forward that momentum at the end of the year, because frankly, with how sustained it was over the last half of the year and with how little has changed in that offense, I don't see any reason as to why it would change or why he would take a step back. I think there's nowhere to go but up here, and while Packers fans might be disappointed they're not first in the division, this is still obviously a fantastic season, getting the first wild card spot with a 13-4 record.
Yep. And, this kind of sucks because we have nothing to argue about, because I do agree with you. I have the Packers in second, Lions taking first. I do not have them at the same record, but I have them at a very, very close record. I have the Packers going 12-5, which would still basically lead to a very similar issue that you mentioned of if both of them tie at 13-4, it brings up a whole bunch of conversation related to how the playoff system works. I think that conversation would still happen if, especially in this scenario, the Packers are 5th for me, right? I think they would be for you too, and they'd be 12.
They would be for me too.
Yeah, they like that. That is insane, and it's totally something that could happen this year because of how good these two teams are. I disagree with absolutely nothing you said there. When we get into the playoffs thing, Not when just to throw something out there. You're gonna see how high I am on the Packers, but
Oh,
I think that
interesting tease.
just because I don't have them winning the division doesn't mean that I'm not as that doesn't mean I'm not high on them. I guess is the way I'm trying to put it. If my
Yeah.
12-5 record tells you anything. I think that they're a really fun team. I think Jordan Love's a great quarterback, and I think, like you said, I think he's just going to keep on going up. That defense is as dangerous as it has ever been, at least in the last 5 or 10 years. It's just as fun, and I think a lot of the pieces that they have there are just gonna it's a lot of young guys who are just gonna get better. You add Josh Jacobs, it's going to be a fun year for the Packers fans. And it's really funny because of how fast their turnaround of suckage is. The Green Bay Packers are just allergic.
But they barely even had
Yeah.
they barely even had a year of sucking, right?
Yeah, 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 exactly. Their turnaround period is just absolutely insane. And I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing. The NFL is probably a better place when the Packers are doing well, but it's still really funny to me. So we can.
It sucks as a Seahawks fan
Oh,
or any other
absolutely.
fan who wants to cheer against them, right?
Yeah, that's
You don't want to see the Packers continue to do good.
yeah.
What do you get a generational quarterback for the third time in a row for? Screw you.
Yeah. No, that's true. Well, we both have. I think you kind of already spoiled your record for the Lions.
I did.
You did. I can spoil mine so that we're both on the same page because we both already were. I also had them going 13-4. So
Yeah.
and that
For
would
me,
put them.
for me, that's good enough for the number one seed. I don't know about you.
Yes, it is. I have the Lions as my number one seed in the NFC. And I think what we have seen the last year from them is absolutely enough to give them that. I think the last season we obviously saw them having to contend with teams like the 49ers, teams like the Eagles. But at this point, I think, at least to me, it's fairly safe to say that I think the Lions are the top of the pack. I think the 49ers, absolutely, there's an argument for the 49ers. But I think between those two teams, at least in me personally, I think it's a coin flip. And in this case, I give it to the Lions. I think they're a super fun team. I think they're going to continue to be a super fun team. It's insane to me. Based on what we were thinking a few years ago, and again, I'm going to bring it up because we had Lions fans getting pissed at us when we talked about it last time, where Jared Goff has, gone from, right? Where he was considered, when he was on the Rams at one point, everybody hated him. Rams fans hated him. Everyone else hated him. No one liked Jared Goff. And now he's all of a sudden, 5 years later, he is he's on arguably the most likable team in the NFL. And he absolutely has a chance to lead them really deep in the playoffs on one of the depth-wise best teams in the NFL. And just, I don't know. I'm super excited to see
Just overall.
Just overall, yeah. They're just so insanely stacked. They've got a little bit of everything sprinkled all over the place. I don't know. I'm super excited to see what they've got. I already said my record for them, but I have them going 4-2 in the division, which is a big reason why they do beat the Packers there. Because, like I said, I can't go back and look at my records between the teams, which is really crappy.
Well,
but
I think either way, those games are going to decide it. Even if you don't have both teams going 13-4 like I do, I mean, you had them one game apart, right? Those Lions-Packers games will flip this division. I think no matter how it turns out. Which, again, I think is why it's kind of ridiculous they didn't schedule them the last week, because that would have been fantastic.
That would have been perfect.
But I digress. I absolutely agree with you. I have them literally the exact same record in the exact same spot, and I'll just kind of jump on top of what you were saying. This is a team that was the helmet of a defender away from going to the Super Bowl last year. If the ball doesn't pop off the defender's helmet and into the arms of Brandon Ayuk, the Lions are in the Super Bowl. And who knows what happens there? I mean, the Lions already beat the Chiefs once last season, so who knows?
Yep, that's true.
And this team, they have been fantastic about being proactive to retain the talent they have, signing Amon-Ra St. Brown to an extension, signing Penei Sewell to an extension. You see the successful teams do that, namely the Eagles, And it often pays off dividends for them because by the time you get to the end of those contracts, it looks like, hey, oh my God, this is such a steal.
Right.
So it's fantastic that they jumped on that. So they've kept a lot of their talent in-house. But the other thing is that especially on defense, they've been very intentional about where they have issues and filled those holes very strategically. The big one is in the secondary. Very, very impressed with what they did in the secondary. They looked at what they had last year and said, hey, this isn't good enough. We need to address this. And they addressed it immediately. With the signing of Carlton Davis, a proven veteran corner who I'd be very confident about putting out there as your number one guy, and then also getting some great young talent, not just in Terry and Arnold, their first round pick, but also Ennis Rakestraw, I believe, was their next pick right after. So fantastic that they go out and immediately address that need. They also got some fantastic talent on the defensive line, adding Marcus Davenport. Well, he hasn't necessarily panned out to his first round status. There's often like flashes in the pan that'll make you think, okay, this guy's pretty legit. Great to try him out there. But the biggest addition that this Lions team had, it's one I wanted the Seahawks to do. It's, I think, in my opinion, the best free agent signing in the entire offseason, and it's gone completely under the radar, is DJ Reader on the defensive line. DJ Reader, from everything that I've seen of this guy, you put him on in the middle of that line, and you just immediately almost neutralize the other team's running game. He is such an amazing plug. He helped the Bengals out so much during their championship runs. Not quite all the way to the championship, but their runs of success, he was a big part of that. And adding him to a defensive line that already has Aiden Hutchinson, that already has Aleem McNeil in the middle, you're not going to be able to run the ball on this team. You've got some good pass rush off the edge now. You actually have good players in the secondary. This team has gone out and surgically both retained this roster and improved it in the places that needed improving. It is masterful roster construction by Brad Holmes, and it's why they will be more than deserving of the number one seed come playoff time.
Yep. No, I don't disagree with that either. I still think it's going to be a very close battle between the Lions and Packers, but that's the same thing you said. I think in a lot of ways, I still stand by what I said in the fact that, I think Lions versus Packers in a lot of ways is probably going to determine who wins the NFC. I think the 49ers are obviously, like I said, they're the other big team there. But I think more than anything, I think Lions absolutely have earned that spot, being the number one. On my power rankings in the NFC, I'd put Lions number one, 49ers number two, and then Packers number three. I think that's probably the way that I'd be running it. And I think... we'll see how the season goes. I think that the Packers can absolutely jump both of them, depending on how things go. But,
it's going to be close.
It will be close. Yeah, absolutely. I think compared to the last few seasons, there's a lot of talent in the NFC. I think a lot of the fun battles are going to be on that NFC side. So, yeah, I'm hyped for that.
Particularly within this division. That's why I'm so glad that we chose this division because, we talked about the Bears. They're no slouch either. They're going to give the Packers and Lions fits and may even steal a win from them. That's the truth of it.
Yep. No, I don't disagree with that. Well, we did it. Every single NFL division before the NFL season starts. Now all that's left, and we'll be doing it after week one, which is kind of funny, is the playoffs. We need to talk about the playoffs, which will include both of our Super Bowl predictions, which you can bet your entire household on, because they will absolutely both be right, even when we pick different teams.
Don't look at my predictions last year. And
what was...
who knows?
Right.
I may or may not have the same prediction this year. Who knows? Bengals Seahawks run it back?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
What did I have? I don't even remember. I think I had I have no clue. I might have had 49ers.
Yours wasn't bad enough to remember. So.
Well, I think mine might have been 49ers Jets or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I think the Jets might have been in there. So I don't know about that. That's arguably worse than the Seahawks being in there.
Yeah, well, we're
Regardless.
getting there this year, so.
Regardless, should be fun. Anyway, another NFL segment. We'll have to decide which one it is coming up next.